Good morning, everybody. Sorry we're running a couple minutes late. The just streaming service had a bit of a glitch. Couldn't carry my feed for a second. But we're here. We got it going. We're doing good. Mm-mm-mm. Man, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. We got a good show for you today. Let's get at it. Let's dig right into it. All right, we're there. We're finally got everything rocking and rolling. We're doing good. Whoo! Got the audio working, got the video working, everything's working good. Traveling is hell. Traveling is hell. You get everything just pitch perfect, everything's perfect. Then you tear everything down and you go on the road and then bam, there you go. You got problems. Well, folks, we're coming to you from Eagle Pass this morning. I drove all the way across the state of Texas so I could be here with you, and we've got some great footage for you from the border. Before we get to that, I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Republicans in general. You know, right now they're just trying to convince the entire world that everything is awful. Everything is a disaster. Everything is horrible. Case in point here, we've got old Donald Trump. Everything seems to be lining up. There we go. Life is good. All right. We got old Donald Trump here just letting us know that everything is horrible.
We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming.
One second, folks. One second. I apologize for the delay. All right. Now we're cooking the fire. Now I can hear everything that's going on. I don't know what's going on. The audio keeps cutting out. Hopefully the video stays solid. Let's try that one more time so I can hear it.
We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming.
Yeah, that's according to Donald Trump. We're living in a cesspool. The economy's a cesspool. Everything's horrible. And he's not the only one. Here's old Greg Abbott on the news yesterday. He's telling anybody that will listen, that the United States is a disaster.
Well, let's be clear. The Biden administration is doing nothing to stop terrorists from coming across the border. They were knowingly allowing them in. And there's two categories here. There are the terrorists who are actually apprehended. The terrorists apprehended are an all-time record, many multiples of those who came across the border under the Trump administration. But second, you talked about the gotaways. Well, the terrorist will pay extra not to be caught. What that means is the number that we've caught, which is extraordinary, there's far more than that who've gotten across the border. Remember this also. Last month, the FBI director talked about a potential 9/11 type terrorist attack because of the terrorists who are coming across our border. The chief job of the president of the United States is national security. Yeah. President Biden is failing at national security. We are.
All right, let's listen to that again and break it down as it goes.
The Biden administration is doing nothing to stop terrorists from coming across the border. They were knowingly allowing them in. And there's two categories.
Okay. Now, the stupidest thing anybody's ever said, oh yeah, they're just knowingly, oh, you're a terrorist? Come on in. Yeah. That's a load of crap. But just like Donald Trump and his "we're living in a cesspool" argument, Donald Trump always turns around and goes back and, oh, but the economy that's doing great, he's just running on my fumes. It was me. I did it. Well, listen to what he says here about people being arrested and caught.
Categories here. There are the terrorists who were actually apprehended. The terrorists apprehended are.
Oh, the terrorists were apprehended. By who? Customs and Border Patrol. Way to go, Joe. Thanks, President Biden. I appreciate you for arresting those terrorists and not just saying, hey, you know what? You're a terrorist? Come on in here.
Are an all-time record. Many multiples of those who came across the border under the Trump administration. But second, you talked about the gotaways. Well, the terrorist will pay extra not to be caught.
What? I didn't know that was an option. You can pay extra so that you don't get caught? What about all the people that are paying to get caught? I mean, come on, people. Come on. Is anybody believing this nonsense? You pay extra so you don't get caught. I mean, it's just the stupidest stuff in the world, man.
What that means is the number that we've caught, which is extraordinary, there's far more than that who've gotten across the border. Remember this also. Last month.
So a fictional number of people that we don't know about because we obviously didn't know about them because we didn't catch them. Well, just believe me, they're here. They're here. Just believe me. Things are bad. Just believe me. Just believe me.
Month, the FBI director talked about a potential 9/11 type terrorist attack because of the terrorists who are coming across our border.
What? The head of the FBI was talking about potential terrorist attacks that we're watching out for, and we're arresting people at the border that are coming across the border. We're being vigilant. We're doing our job. But everything's terrible, folks. I mean, everything's terrible. I mean, what else is this guy going to talk about if he doesn't say stuff like this? I mean, it's not like he's actually done anything at all. And he's got the whole entire right-wing media just backing him up on this. This is CNBC. CNBC is just right-wing garbage. It really is. It masquerades as a financial network, but it is really just financial garbage. This is the headline out of CNBC. Biden says U.S. economy is world's best. Trump calls it a cesspool. Data is clear. So what does the data say? It's your job. It is your job. If one person says it's raining, one person says it's not, it's not your job to say, two people disagree on the weather. The weather data is clear. No, it's your job to stick your head out the window and tell everybody if it's raining or not. And if you dig through the article, it, of course, says it is not raining. It is very nice outside. Joe Biden is absolutely correct. We do have the best economy in the world right now. We just do. Even, I went so, thanks, Peachtree. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the support. And again, I'm sorry for the rough start. Thanks for sticking with me. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there with the networks and what they've developed a new trick. The last show I told you about blocking MAGA. They're just useless. And that there was a guy trying to peddle information. He was claiming it was a graph from Border Patrol. And you could just look at it and tell it's just an Excel. Lifted right out of an Excel spreadsheet. Made it up himself and then put a Border Patrol badge on it to pretend it was actually a real graph. Well, that's been institutionalized with the Republicans. This is Stephen Moore, folks. This is Stephen Moore. He's from the Heritage Foundation. He is used to be on the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. They parted ways with him. He is an economist, and anytime the right wingers want an economist to come on their show and doomsay about what's going on in the world with our economy, with our economy, they bring on Stephen Moore. And Stephen Moore does things like this. And he's getting roundly rolled for it. I'm absolutely just loving it. I'm absolutely loving this. He just shared this on his X-Chan account. The Trump versus Biden income showdown. Under Trump, households saw a $6,000 rise. Under Biden, households have experienced a $2,000 fall. That's an $8,000 yearly difference. Remember this when you vote. But is it? And he puts these graphs out to talk about it. And we're missing a year in here. We're missing 2020. First of all, the X and Y axis on these two graphs are nothing. He made these up. But to make them seem legit, he puts on there source, Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not really, Stephen, because the Bureau of Labor Statistics doesn't erase years. See, what old Stephen Moore did with these graphs is he just went to his Excel spreadsheet, he punched in a bunch of numbers, and he left off 2020. And what does that do? That really boosts Trump's numbers. And it changes the starting point for Biden. So his little red line graph, it doesn't start at the 2020 numbers or even the 2021 numbers where Biden took office. It starts in 2019 when the economy was still collapsing, but still the numbers were up here. So it changes the entire graph. It's not real. That's why this is not a Bureau of Labor Statistics graph. It's just made up. And I will be the first to admit, if you take Trump and you take everything that he did wrong and everything that was bad that happened during his presidency, and you just eliminate that and ignore it, he's a great freaking president. I will tell you, I will admit that, Stephen Moore. If you do that, if you just take everything that is bad about Trump and you completely ignore that and pretend it did not happen, he's a great president. But the problem is we all have to live in reality, and your bar graph that you're presenting as data is crap. It's just a lie. It's a made up, and he's getting rolled. Even, I talk about Frank Luntz all the time on the show. I warn you about it. Even he was rolling them. He's like, Stephen, where's 2020 on this graph? It's just what they're doing. Everything is bad, even though the data and yourself, you know yourself, everything is really going good. The economy is going good. Nobody's worrying about losing their jobs. Nobody's worrying about any of that nonsense. President Biden's doing a stellar job down at the border. We know that. I'm about to show you the videos that prove it. But I got to tell you, folks, we've got to be vigilant on this. This is what I want to talk about today. This is from Fox News. This is the type of thing that I want to talk about today. Thanks for the support, Sherry. I appreciate you. Listen to these folks.
Parents and grandparents who spoke with Fox News Digital say they are not optimistic about the future of the American dream.
It's dying.
I think it's in the middle. People haven't given up hope entirely, but I think a lot of people are doubtful.
You can't afford the American dream with what we wanted when we were young. It's not something really our kids can afford.
Because it's too expensive. We've got ours, but our kids and our grandkids can't afford homes, and they can't afford to do the things they'd like to do.
Kind of dead. I just think it's really hard to change where you're at in life these days. It's possible, but it's extremely difficult.
Kind of lost our way. I mean, it's impossible for the younger generation to afford housing. I mean, a car costs what my parents bought a house for, like stuff like that. And I mean, wages have remained stagnant.
Parents and grandparents.
Okay, so if you go to a Republican area and talk to 40, 50, 60-year-old white people, they're going to parrot what Fox News constantly feeds them. They are. Now, are homes expensive? Hell yeah, they are. Hell yeah, they are. The housing market, if you're a seller, is booming. But the reason it is booming for sellers is because there are buyers. And there are people buying these homes. And we're due for it. Don't get me wrong. We're due for a correction. I have told you this on the show many times. There's a massive disconnect. There's a huge break. You've got the middle class to upper middle class, and then there's that lower middle class that is completely squeezed out. Everything below that, you're a renter. You just are. There is just a huge correction coming in the real estate market. There is. No one doubts it. But, capitalism didn't quit working. Yeah, Heidi, Wonder Woman says, media lies to us all every day. It's so frustrating. It's so infuriating. It is. It is. And that's what this whole show is about today, folks. It is. Thanks, Heidi. I appreciate you for summing it up that way. But yeah, you can go to a Trump stronghold and talk to people. And that's what you'll get. You'll get that kind of feedback constantly. You will. But what's reality? I mean, what is the reality of what's going on in the economy? Well, we got the jobs numbers today. The street was expecting 192,000 jobs. Whoopsie. U.S. workforce adds 303,000 jobs in March, far more than expected. Huh. But I thought the economy was a cesspool. I thought everything was bad. I thought nobody could afford the American dream. Folks, that is the media. That is the media right now. You know, there are 15 polls out there that Biden is beating Trump. But you let Trump lead in a poll, and it will make national news on every network, every single network. But they will not show you a poll that Biden's leading. We are seeing an election that has more astroturf, more thumbs on the scale, more just doomsaying. That is just blatantly wrong and obviously wrong. And that, folks, I've never seen an election like this before where people are just simply fabricating charts out of thin air, assigning them to legitimate organizations like the Bureau of Labor Statistics and claiming this is what's going on. I'll be honest, as long as I've followed politics, I have never seen that trend, but we're seeing it. We are seeing it all over the place. It is amazing what is going on, trying to sell people on how terrible everything is. And that's why I'm down here at the border, folks. I want you to see. I've got a ton of video footage, but I've picked out a few. I want you to stick with me. One of them is a little over 4 minutes long, but just stick with me. You want to watch this. But this is what I found down at the border. And I want to talk to you about what people are saying down here. We talked to people and talked to people and talked to people. I've got 3 folks that gave me feedback that I want to share their stories with you. And it's from across the spectrum. You're really going to enjoy this. Let's start with this video. And I'll see you on the other side. So here's the main entrance to Shelby Park, and it is really laughable. They got 2 Humvees parked up here, protecting literally nothing but dead grass. I mean, it's literally nothing going on here. Absolutely zero. These poor guys are just sitting out in the sun, doing nothing. Wasted time and money. So yeah, that's the first thing that we found. We drove down to Eagle Pass, drove down to Shelby Park, wanted to look at Ground Zero. That's where old Greg Abbott's talking about. He's at Loggerheads. He's having a fight with Joe Biden because Greg Abbott's going to save the day, and Joe Biden's just stopping him. And this is where we're just proving we're doing everything down here. No, this is what I ran into first thing. First of all, the only thing you could hear was birds chirping. There is nothing happening at Shelby Park. Nothing. It is empty. It is empty. So I wanted to get you a really good look from all directions. So we drove around Eagle Pass looking at different things from different perspectives so that you could see. And let's just go to it. Yeah, that's Shelby Park down there, folks. That's where they do all the agitprop videos where Mango Mussolini and Greg Abbott rolled down to the river and took their pictures and all of that nonsense. We're literally 5 minutes from Shelby Park. Nothing. There's nothing. Just absolutely nothing that they say is happening down here. It's all fake. It's all agitprop. So in that video, what we did was I wanted to drive around so that you could see that this barrier that they're talking about. Did you see a barrier anywhere? No, I literally, all I did was hang a right when I got to Shelby Park. I drove down about 5 minutes, found a neighborhood, went through the neighborhood. Let me show you the neighborhood. And before I show you this, I want you to think about the way the corporate media portrays this area and what's going on down here. The visual images you always see. This is Eagle Pass, a neighborhood right on the river. Brace yourself for the carnage. Yeah. 5 minutes from Shelby Park. Just looks like a hellscape, doesn't it? I mean, really. Look at look at these houses. These are nice houses, man. But the Republicans pretend like, oh man, there's just disaster down here. There's an invasion. I think we got a dirt road we can get down to the river from here. You get any closer to Shelby Park, they got it all blocked off. I tell you, folks, this was a really interesting neighborhood. I mean, you could tell at the front of the neighborhood it was a little bit older. You had houses that were, like $250,000, $300,000, $350,000 houses. Big suburban houses, suburban houses, and then you just started getting mixed in these, obviously $500,000, $750,000 to $1 million homes mixed into the same neighborhood, and this backs right up against the river. I mean, backs right up against the river, and it's amazing what you see when you actually go down there.
Not a big deal.
This was right behind that neighborhood, folks. This is right behind that neighborhood.
So yeah, I want you to take a close look at this. This is the Rio Grande River. You see, it's pretty shallow. I mean, you can really walk across it. It's not a big deal. Pretty. There's no people in that water. There are no people trying to come across this border. They come during the holidays to try to be with their families that are over here. And the ones that do come are coming because there's jobs here that people are hiring them for. That's it. This is the big deal, folks. This is the big deal. There's just nothing going on. It's all fake agitprop.
So yeah, that's what's really going on right now. That's what's really going on right now. I have one more video from you that I took from Piedras Negras. I really want you to get a good look at Shelby Park, because that is where they always do. When Trump came down to the border with Abbott, this is where they do the filming, and they tell everybody it's hordes of people, it's an invasion. We've got to have this. And I took a video from Piedras Negras. There's a park. It's two parks, and let me tell you this. Piedras Negras, Mexico is a blue-collar working town. It is one of the lowest crime, safest cities in Mexico. Eagle Pass, just across the river, is rated as one of the safest cities in the United States of America. Literally, two of the safest cities in North America butted up against each other. And you've got Greg Abbott trying to sell you all the time that there's just an invasion. This is a hellscape. It's terrorists. It's criminals. You heard it out of his own mouth, folks. You heard it out of his own mouth. I just want you to just take a look at this.
So here we are in Piedras Negras, Mexico. We're literally right across the street from Shelby Park. And Shelby Park is the area where Greg Abbott likes to pretend he's doing something, like he's some sort of tough guy or something. It's the showdown with Joe Biden. It's nothing. It's little. It's a 50-acre park. So I'm gonna turn the camera around. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit. I want you to look at a few things over here.
And one thing I didn't draw attention to in this video, I'm sorry for interrupting it, but I just want to pay it. This is what they always draw your attention to. This shot right here. It's a 50-acre park. That is not 50 acres. On the other side of that bridge, there's a golf course. This part of the park is shut down. There used to be baseball diamonds here. I draw attention. You can see it in the back. There's a brown patch back there where they just let it completely become dilapidated. It was their baseball park. They used to swim down here, come down here, go fishing. This is all shut down. This is a park that belongs to the people of Eagle Pass. They took it. And the people of Eagle Pass can't use it. But the golf course, yeah. Johnny Got Rocks can still go to the golf course.
This is Shelby Park, right? Look at that low rent trash looking, all those barriers thrown out there, the shipping containers and And this is where he's all his tough guy talk about razor wire and all that nonsense comes from. And right over there where he and Trump did the let me zoom in for you. This is where they did their little photo op, because that's what all this is about, is a damn photo op. Right down there. That's where they did their little photo op. And you can see the.
You remember the video I showed you? It was all over the internet. It's where, you know, Trump and Abbott, there's that, you see the fence line right there. You can see they actually took money to make a walkway so they could roll Abbott down there. That's where they stood there. And across from there is where the guy's yelling, Trump, Trump. It's his own photographers from right-wing rag that followed him down there. That right there in that patch right there is where that happened.
They made a walkway and everything to roll Greg Abbott down there. But you see right there in the river, you can just walk across. This is doing nothing. I want you to pay attention. Oops.
And the significance about the fact that you can walk across it, this section of the river is one of the only deep sections of the river. It is. That's why they stuck those damn buoys there. This used to be one of the only places they have canoe rental businesses that are gone. People's whole livelihoods, canoes, tube rentals, they used to do that right here, because the rest of the Rio Grande is like what you're looking at in this shot. It's one sandbar after another. It's super shallow. You can literally walk across this river.
Oops. That's where the fence ends. That's where the barbed wire ends, right there. But take a look at the black fence in the background. That continues on for a little while longer.
I'm going to back it up so you can hear that again. I apologize for interrupting this video, but that was an important point. Pay attention to where the barbed wire ends. I'm going to stop it one more time, then I'm going to leave it alone and let it go.
It's doing nothing. I want you to pay attention. Oops. That's where the fence ends. That's where the barbed wire ends, right there.
Remember how I've told you over and over, look at this shot. You see the razor wire fencing ends right there. I've told you over and over and over again, this is agitprop. This is for show. If you are really trying to cross the border, are you going to cross right there? No. You're going to walk 2 minutes up this river. This is a park. There are park paths that go up there. You walk 2 minutes and you walk around the barbed wire. It runs, 100 yards each direction. That's it. This is agitprop. It is all made up fictional stuff. They took the people of Eagle Pass's park away for photo ops. And the corporate media, folks, this is what I really want to get at you in your brain. Think about the images the corporate media shows you from here. It's always tight in images. They don't show you this. They don't show you what's really going on, because if they showed you really what was going on, would you be scared? No, this is ridiculous. I mean, I'll let it go here. Watch. Pay attention to the point I make about the black fencing here.
But take a look at the black fence in the background. That continues on for a little while longer. That's where the poor neighborhoods are. But it ends also. In just a couple minutes walk up that direction. Just a couple minutes walk up the river. There's no barrier. There's nothing stopping you. Nothing at all.
That black fencing, where you see the black fencing, just like every city. I showed you a very nice neighborhood, right? There are poorer sections. And when you go from Shelby Park to that nice neighborhood, it's like a 5-minute drive, but you drive through a poorer neighborhood. It is a lower middle class to poor neighborhood that you drive through. They put that fencing up behind that neighborhood. Those people can't access the river. But you get down to Johnny Got Rocks, who will hire a lawyer and sue you. Yeah, that fencing doesn't go there. None of that goes there. None of it.
And at all. This is all astroturf. I want you to look at all these vehicles, all these people collecting salaries. And you know what you don't see? Immigrants. You don't see immigrants. Why? Because they threw all this stuff up when there's an annual flood at Christmas. You get a lot of crossings right at Christmas, so they threw all this up for a photo op. See the people playing down in the river, swimming? I mean, this is riverfront property. And look at this ghetto low-rent crap that they threw up. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And you know the worst part is? They took this park. That's a park that belongs to the city of Eagle Pass. They took this park away from the people of Eagle Pass. They seized it. But if the people of Eagle Pass had asked, you see the dugouts over there? That used to be a baseball field. See the dugouts? That's a baseball field right there. If the city of Eagle Pass had asked for a nickel to improve this park, Greg Abbott and the Republicans would have given them the middle finger. But look at this. They got all this money for blow-up bullshit tents that are for nothing, that are doing nothing, paying all these people salaries for doing nothing. And there's nobody here. There is literally nobody here. Look, this is a park in Piedras Negras. It's a park just the opposite of Shelby. It's a city park. And then all it is just a few Mexican families hanging out in their own park. It's nonsense. This is all made up agitprop nonsense. All of it. And it's a distraction. The Republicans have done nothing. They do nothing. There is a problem to be fixed. Let me show you what the problem is. You can see it from here. You see that bridge? That's the International Bridge. See all that backed up traffic? Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. That needs to be fixed. That's the border bill. That's what Democrats are trying to do. But, you know, Greg Abbott's no help there. All he wants to do is stuff that hurts people. All this nonsense. These are all my Texas Guard troops. All my tax money just getting vacuumed up. That $30 billion surplus went to this nonsense. Such a joke.
So yeah, folks, let's talk about what's really going on down at the border. I talked to people down here and got input across the spectrum. I'll share 3 stories with you because I don't want to talk for an hour just on this one subject. First guy I talked to running a restaurant down here in Eagle Pass. Great restaurant, by the way, great food. Guy by the name, we'll call him Oscar because I asked him if he wanted to be, you know, I can make you famous. He did not want to be famous. Oscar is a Mexican-American young man. He's a restaurateur. And he very much buys into this propaganda. He does. He believes it. 100%. Because, you know, I told you back in December, you had a flood of immigrants. And it's the holidays. It is the holidays, but there's more going on. I'll get to that in just a minute. At the end. I'll get to that because there is stuff to talk about on the border. But Oscar tells me, I said, you know, when I asked him what's going on, he tells me, he says, yeah, we had immigrants. It was bad. Like a couple months ago, talking about in December, you know, 3-4 months ago, talking about the holidays. It was bad, man. It was bad, but they put the barbed wire down and now it's good. Well, Oscar, that didn't make sense to me. And to be fair to Oscar, when I asked him what he was thinking, I didn't invite him to a conversation on it. I asked him what he thought. And he told me what he thought. So when I started asking him questions back, he became uncomfortable. I said, look, man, that's a couple hundred yards of barbed wire. There's 1,250 miles of border. That's a couple hundred yards of barbed wire. That didn't stop that immigration problem. And that kind of made him uncomfortable. And he's like, well, yeah, but they had the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol stopped it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's Biden. Yeah, that's President Biden. You did a good, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that you had an influx that the Border Patrol took care of. And that made him, and that's when the conversation ended. He was not comfortable with that. And that's pretty much how that went. And that was something that I heard resonated to me several times, that as Oscar referred to him as his governor. I mean, his governor, my governor put that down there. And they really believe that, folks. They really believe this agitprop. They're buying into it because Oscar runs a restaurant. Oscar is not a political like me. Oscar does not pay attention in detail to everything everybody does. He just lives his life and runs his business, man. And it's a good bit. I'm telling you, one of the best chicken fried steaks I've ever had. But he got it wrong. He really did. He lives here. He sees it. And his idea of what's going on was wrong. I talked to another guy on the other side of the border. His name's Felipe. Felipe runs, when you cross the border, there are these food and beverage carts. There are people that run food and beverage carts. That have food and beverage carts. You can buy, all kinds of different snack goodies and drinks and snow cones and stuff. They're all on carts. He runs the carts. And Felipe just blew my mind. You talk about somebody that the image does not fit what comes out their mouth. It blew my mind. Felipe was very well versed on what was going on, knew more about what was going on in Mexico than I did. Of course, he lives there, but he was very much paying attention. And he dismissed everything down in Shelby Park. He says, that's just stupidity. But he says, there were a lot of immigrants crossing back in December, he said. There would be 150, 200 people right down here by the park. He said, as soon as they put the barbed wire up, they just moved upstream and crossed a mile upstream. And he told me where they were crossing up there. He said, but there was really a problem going on. And he says, let me tell you why. He said, because we have a problem with immigration. He said, I've never seen homeless people like we're seeing in Mexico right now. He's saying we're getting deluged with immigrants here in Mexico from Honduras and Venezuela. And that's when I asked him, well, what about Haiti? Are you getting a lot of Haitians or Cubans? He's like, yeah. How did he was surprised that I knew. But that was his take on it. He's like, look, man, yeah, y'all are getting a lot of immigration, but we're getting killed. He says, there are tons of homeless people here. There's a real problem, and it's ongoing. But there's this silliness talking about the invasion and all that other stuff. I mean, his view, his mile-high view of the entire problem just blew me away. Because I was expecting a guy, I mean, you got to send, he was sweaty, he's working out, it was 90 degrees outside yesterday. You know what I mean? He's got a baseball cap on, he's out busting his ass, doing his job, running his business, wearing a, t-shirt, shorts. He did not pose the image of a deep thinking intellectual to me when I first started talking to him. I just wanted to know what a common person on the street thought. And here I am, I'm getting a guy that's just really paying attention to what's going on in the pulse beat of his own country, man. He really knows. And he really wanted me to understand Mexico is really dealing with a problem right now. And we're going to get more to that here in just a minute. I want to tell you the third person I wanted to share with you, and that was Miguel. Miguel is Mexican-American, works here in the hotel that I'm in. Again, blew me away. Very young man, mid-20s, very young man. Extremely well-versed, extremely eloquent. My air conditioner blew out yesterday in the hotel room. It was scorching hot. Miguel comes in here, and let me stop for a second. I wanted to, for everybody like Miguel, I'm going to ask you to please stop doing this. Miguel comes in here, diagnoses my problem with my air conditioner, goes and gets a new air conditioner, takes my air conditioner out of the wall, installs a new air conditioner, and he did it in 20 minutes. As a husband, I'm going to have to ask you guys to stop doing that. I'm going to have to ask you to please start making things look a little harder because, you know, I'm getting judged by this. You know, I'm getting judged by this. You know, Miguel, you can't be coming in here and just knocking this shit out like this because it takes me 2 days. And Mrs. Texas Paul thinks I'm an imbecile because you make it look like it's, you know, out it comes onto the cart, the new one. Okay, program goes over there, takes the thermostat off the wall. He's, you know, done it 250 times. I mean, he's like, done, boom, boom, okay, cold air. While talking to me about politics, mind you. I'm going to have to ask you to stop doing that, Miguel. You're making me look bad, brother. You really are. I'm going to put you in for a man card violation. It'll probably just end up in a warning. But Miguel actually brought something to my attention that I hadn't thought about. First of all, his thoughts on it were, this is bullshit. I mean, really, that was his whole point of view. This whole border thing, he was a little bit angry about it because he grew up here. And the difference between Oscar and Miguel is Oscar, I got the feeling that it was a family restaurant and they were fairly affluent. I mean, nice gold chains. I mean, he just looked like he was upper middle class. Miguel, working class. He was, and he told me flat out. I mean, you know, they used to go swim down in the river. They used to go swim down at Shelby Park. He was telling me about how they used to jump off the railroad bridge and swim down there, and that's all taken away. It's all taken away, and it pisses him off because, in his words, he says it's always been like this. It's always been like this. You know, we get an influx of immigrants and we just deal with it. There's nothing special about this. And here they are. They've taken our park. And he was talking about the businesses that lost their entire livelihoods. You know, people used to go down there and then you'd get like small businesses, you know, just like they have the carts on the other side of the border. Have you ever seen a Confederate flag not flying? There's a jar of mayonnaise. No. Good point. But here Miguel is, you know, I mean, he's busting this out, never takes a break from what he's doing. He's replacing my air conditioner in this room. And I'm halfway between jaw dropping, watching how fast he's just ripping this air conditioner out of the wall and listening to what he has to say. And he's like, yeah, man. It's really that simple. It's always been this way. That's bullshit. And we're tired of it. But then he added something. I said, look, man, why do you think? Because the mayor of Eagle Pass is a Democrat. And Greg Abbott couldn't do this down in Shelby Park if the mayor hadn't declared Shelby Park as private property. That was the avenue. And I asked him, I said, man, why do you think he got bent over like that, man? And he's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. He was very offended that I said that about the mayor, and he rushed to the mayor's defense. He says, no, man, we've been trying to get a third bridge forever. We really need a third bridge. You know that traffic I was showing you? It's like that for the trucks as well. The next bridge over is where the trucks cross. And it's just backed up forever. And Miguel's like, no, Eagle Pass wants that. We want to be a corridor for more trade and more commerce. And I'm like, dude, you install air conditioners. You're talking to me about advanced economics here. What the hell is happening? And he did. He just laid it out on me, man. He just laid it out there for me. He said, like, look, that was the deal. They want that third bridge. And if they don't play ball, they don't get it. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, that fits. It fits. Greg Abbott will hurt people for nothing. He'll take their park for nothing. And he will blackmail Eagle Pass and cut the hamstring of their economic development and growth if he doesn't get the political theater that he wants. And that is who they are. And because I'm not local, because I live on the other side of the state, I had no idea. And I started checking it. He's right. He's right. Eagle Pass has been trying to get this bridge forever. Yeah, Ron Paul, Mike Bundy, I appreciate the support, man. Ron Paul was not good for the state. He was not. But yeah, I mean, that really hit home with me, this young man. I was like, well, Mrs. Texas Paul asked him, did you vote? He says, I voted in one election. So I told him about Oscar. And you could just see the look on his face. He's like, I'm like, you got to vote, dude. Oscar's going to vote. And he's going to vote Trump. You've got to vote, man. And you could just see it in his brain. He got it, man. This kid is smart. He's smart. He got it. He understood. But anyways, I got to make this not about Texas. I'm friends with Christopher Titus. I love the guy. He's freaking hilarious. His wife Rachel's just amazing. They're wonderful people. Wonderful people. I'm sitting there putting this together, and I'm flipping through my social media, and of course I follow Titus. And just a reminder who Titus is. This is Christopher Titus. Hilarious comedian, funny. He's had his own television show. Hilarious, funny guy. But he puts up a story where he was talking to a friend of his who is a jeweler, a high-end custom jeweler. And his friend, well, I'll just read it to you. I'll just read it to you. He says, I have a buddy, hardcore writing. He flipped before COVID. I asked him how his business is doing. He sells high-end silver and gold jewelry, custom, out-of-the-world stuff. Said he's having the best year ever, but Biden sucks. And he says, WTF. And folks, I have to tell you, and talking to people down here, that was really common. That sentiment was really common. You had people that are buying into the agitprop. And we've got to be loud. We have got to talk more. We have got to really get this message out. Get people thinking. Because again, it's not just here in Texas. It's everywhere. They wouldn't be doing this stuff if it didn't work. They just wouldn't. So let's talk about the challenges we're facing, and what we're really looking at over the next year or two, so that we know what's coming. And I just want to juxtapose the two parties and the people. This is Xiomara Castro. She's the president of Venezuela. She is, you remember Felipe talking about there getting a ton of immigrants flooding into Mexico from Venezuela and Honduras. Xiomara Castro is the president of Honduras. She has been fighting an uphill battle. She has. The last president of Honduras was this guy. Yeah. Juan Orlando Hernandez. We just convicted him in a New York court. We extradited the president of Honduras to New York, tried and convicted him and his brother Tony of drug trafficking. And he is going to an American prison. Actually, he's in an American prison. Yeah, this is a big freaking deal. He used the entire Honduran government apparatus, military, diplomatic corps, everything for one purpose: to move cocaine. That's what he did. And he had a death grip on Honduras. So you can imagine the disaster, the social disaster that the Honduran people are dealing with. You know, we've talked about it before. People are just people. You take care of your business. You do. You got up this morning, you feed yourself, you go to the grocery store, you get your own groceries, you pay your own light bill, you mow your grass, you take care of everything in your life. But the things that government do, you can't do. Mike Bundy says, Wall Street veteran, same message during Christmas. I didn't get to read the whole thing. Sorry about that, Mike. But yeah, think about Honduras. Really, think about Honduras. It's the same message during Clinton's term, yet best economy. Yeah, exactly. It worked for them before. That's why they're doing it again. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going to kick that bullshit narrative into the ditch, jump on top of it with my fact bat and beat it to death. Uncle Fatty says, nothing better than a fresh set of eyes with boots on the ground. Truth is golden. I love fact bat, don't lie. Ride or die Democrats do the work. Thanks, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, for all you do now. Thank you. I appreciate the support, Uncle Fatty. I really do. I really do. But yeah, you've got Castro in Honduras that's trying to overcome that. I mean, just imagine the shape that their government is and all the government does there, because their entire government has been focused on being for the last 12 years has been a drug running organization. They haven't been focused on taking care of the people. And she's been the president for the last year, but man, it doesn't change overnight. So Hondurans are fleeing Honduras right now. That's really happening. It's really happening, folks. Then you've got Venezuela. This is Nicolas Maduro. President, you'll recognize him by face as soon as you see him. You may not recognize him by name, but this is Maduro. President of Venezuela. He is the Hugo Chavez successor. He is all about Nicolas Maduro. And that's it. He is the perfect textbook example of a Central American strongman who is focused on nothing but his own power. And Venezuela is a frickin' disaster. He has no economic sense whatsoever. He's just a disaster for Venezuela. So Venezuela is in crisis. They're having massive gang wars down there. It's identical to what's going on in Haiti. You know, Haiti is in crisis. You've got two elites battling it out for their own political power, and they've turned their streets into war zones. So Haitians are flooding into Mexico. Cuba. Raul Castro has run Cuba into the ground. The Castro brothers bet everything on the Russians, and the Russians are falling apart and cannot give them the economic support that they once did. And the Castro brothers burnt bridges. Cuba is really in crisis right now. They're having food and electricity riots. The government has literally sought help to get rations to distribute to the people because people are freaking starving, man. People will not sit there and watch a family member starve to death, a child that they love. That's what's going on in Cuba. Then Mexico themselves have the Mexico City crisis with their water. They're about to see hyperinflation in their water prices. As soon as the dry season just started, the dry season just started. That all those river scenes I showed you it'll be nothing like that in a few weeks down the road. For the most part, the Rio Grande turns into a dry riverbed. Mexico City this summer will run out of water. We've talked about it in the past. What that means. And I want you to think about that, folks. These are all things that are really happening. And the Republican attitude is, okay, we're just going to get, really violent, aggressive, anti-immigration stance, and we're going to pretend like we can just wall the world off. Wilbro says, make Texas great again, remembering Ann Richards. Yeah, she's a smart woman, man. I miss Ann Richards. I'm old enough to remember Ann Richards. We Democrats, we look at these things. Thanks for the support, Matthew. We look at these things. These are all really happening right now. Mexico is really flooded with immigrants, and they cannot handle it. They've got enough on their own plate. So what do you think's going to happen with those immigrants? They're coming here. That's what happened last December, is Mexico had a huge flood of immigrants all hit at one time. From Haiti, Cuba, Venezuela, Honduras, all hit at one time. And they were just living in the streets, starving. So what did they do? They came here. Anything to try to survive. Combine that with the fact that they did it right at the holidays, when we naturally have illegal immigration at the holidays because families just want to be together. And we're really jerks about that. If I had family living in Mexico, I could hop in my car and I could drive down to Mexico, visit my family, no problem. We don't allow that. In fact, I'll tell you another story. I did a jerk move, didn't mean to. Talk about the absolute rude tourist thing to do. We were coming back across, and there was a line of cars parked, and I had no idea. I had no idea what this line was for. Well, it was a backup from the border. So I'm in the right lane following the locals. They're zipping along. And then I get to the border and I can see, oh, shoot, that's the line. So I crossed over to the left lane. That was the center lane. I crossed over to the left lane where there's another line. I was in the far right lane, got to the intersection. It was my turn to go. I went, there was an opening. I crossed all the way over to the left lane. And that looked like the left lane going over the bridge. It wasn't. The center lane was the left lane going over the bridge. And again, I got there was an opening. Pulled in. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I really wasn't trying to be a jerk. It just opened up that way. And Mexican cop, I'm sitting there in line, and all of a sudden I get on my window. And I rolled the window down, and he explained to me what lines were and that I had just cut the line, and I will be getting out of line, and I will go to the back of the line. And I'm like, yes, sir, absolutely. I didn't intend to cut the line. I thought this was the left lane. I'm sorry. I apologize. And I did. I went back around. I got back at the end of the line. I'm back up there in 5 minutes. That line is just zipping across, zipping along. And he sees me when I get back up there. And he walks up to the car. I'm like, oh, shit. He knocks on the window again. I saw him coming this time. I roll the window down. I said, yes, sir. And he says, how long did that take you? I said, just a few minutes. He's like, yeah, it takes us 4 hours. True story, folks. I asked Mrs. Texas Paul. She was in the car with me. He said, it takes us 4 hours. Talking about coming back across. And I didn't understand what he was talking about when he first said it. I was like, okay, I understand. And I didn't get it at first. And then Mrs. Texas Paul explained to me, he's talking about coming the other direction. Because we were talking about what that traffic really is. There are a ton of Mexican citizens that work at Eagle Pass. They come over, they drive across the bridge, and then they drive back. Our system, forgive me, is so screwed up that it can take them 4 freaking hours to do what takes me 10, 15 minutes. That's really happening at the border, folks. These are people that legitimately work. They live in Mexico and Piedras Negras. I told you, it's a blue-collar town. They go across to Eagle Pass, they work jobs, and then they come home at night. It's all legal. It's not like we're not talking about illegal immigration. It's just the way the border works. There's almost 500 million people between Mexico and the United States. There's going to be immigration, and these invisible lines that we call borders really don't matter to people. It's like one big town separated by a river. And we're trying to fix that. We Democrats are trying to fix that. We're trying to, when you go through, folks, one of the things that really struck me, and again, credit to Mrs. Texas Paul, she caught this. I didn't. No dogs. Not a single dog. Used to be when you go across the border, there's cops standing out there with drug dogs, and they sniff your car. They walk around your car. See if the drug dog reacts. Not a one. When we got to the booths going both directions, there were sensors. And these sensors can do exactly what a drug dog does. All a drug dog does, it's a chemical that hits on their nose, the biological sensors in their nose, and tells them, hey, they're the smell of drugs in the air. Well, you don't need a dog to do that. Sniffers can be electronic. Exactly, old Silver. Sniffers. That was one of the things I noticed is when you pulled up, they stopped you for a second, and then they said, come on. He's looking at a light that you can't see. It's facing him, not you. And you pull up, and he gets a green light if the sniffers don't find anything. That's the technology we're trying to pay for with the border bill. We're trying to expand that because it works much better than dogs ever did. You know, we're finding out some of them dogs were just bullshit. They were just never really even trained. They were just defrauded the government and sold them dogs that loved frickin' McDonald's. They would hit on a damn you put a pack of chicken nuggets in a suitcase, the dogs would hit on it. These sniffers are not fooled by anything. This is the kind of technology we are trying to pay for because there's real commerce going on down at that border. You're talking about our economy, folks, your economy. Right? Do what the government's job is to do what you cannot. And what you cannot do is you cannot control a border yourself. You can't. Michael Lee says, explain to me how and why did the mother and child die because of Abbott's wire stunt? Last December, there was an influx of immigrants. There were. They were crossing by this park because it's a beautiful park, dude. There's nice sloping walkways. I've got more video that I'll put in later shows that shows the park more. Nice sloping walkways. It's easy to get down to the river. There's river access. So they were using it. These immigrants that they couldn't stay in Mexico because they were starving to death in Mexico were trying to come to the United States. Well, they threw the damn barbed wire up and they're trying to cross at night and they got hung up in razor wire. 19-year-old girl who was pregnant got hung up in the razor wire on the American side and had a miscarriage right there on the frickin' riverbank, dropped her baby right in the mud. And she just sat there and damn near bled out. I mean, there were tons of tragedies like that. That's what Felipe was talking about when he was talking about that was just crap. Because all they did was move a mile up the river. That's all they did. But all of that immigration is gone. The holidays are over. Alejandro Mayorkas went down, met with the members of the Mexican government, the head of our house Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. Duh, that's his job. He saw that this was going on. He went down to Mexico, met with the Mexican government. They're like, hey, we're having a problem too. And they sat down and they figured out how to deal with it. They reallocated resources and they dealt with it. That's why there's nothing there. That's why that footage I showed you, nowhere up and down river, there's just the immigration is not there because Democrats are working on fixing the actual problem. And all of those problems I mentioned, what do you want going forward? Do you want a Democrat working on this? Or do you want a Republican working on this? Do you want somebody like Greg Abbott that lies about tax reform, just does a boondoggle there, lies about immigration, doesn't really do anything to help with immigration or solve the problem, literally buses people to other states because he throws his hands up and admits he's a failure. By the way, when Greg Abbott ran for governor, he knew this was a border state. They didn't surprise him with that after he got the job and said, oh, by the way, you're the governor of a border state. He knew going in he was the governor of a border state, but he's thrown his hands up and says, I can't do it. I don't know how to deal with it. So I'm going to bust people off without talking to them, without coordinating with anybody. I mean, who do you want dealing with this going forward? These issues that are really happening in Honduras, Venezuela, Mexico is we're going to see an immigration shift because of what's going on. There's 20 million people in Mexico City, and they are running out of water. People don't voluntarily die. They move to live. Who do you want dealing with that going forward? People that understand these things or people that just lie to you and have spectacles and just insanity? Let me just put a cherry on top. This is Laurel Libby talking about just dealing with issues, right? This is Laurel Libby. She's a Republican up in Maine. And Maine has a problem. Talk about immigration, they've got a problem. They've got a white supremacy immigration. Maine is being flooded. You know those idiots you see that wear the red and the black, that walk around with the bald guy, that usually at anti-transgender things, when the right wingers get together to have a big hate fest. These guys stand there at attention, and they're all wearing the same red sweatshirts, and he walks around screaming stuff. Bald, freaky looking guy. Well, they wanted to build a compound up in Maine to train people to be professional agitators. Maine said no. Maine said no. And they made a law that said, you can't do that here. Well, old Laurel Libby said, hold my beer. And she had feelings about this. And you have to forgive me, I don't control the audio. Turn your volume way up. This is nothing I can control. This is the original level of the feed. I can't control that. So listen closely to what she has to say. There are subtitles.
Let's talk about the Nazis. I would like to know, although I'm not posing a question through the chair, I would like to know what they did that was illegal. I would like to know what they did in detail, if folks would like to share, that was wrong, that infringed on another person's right. Holding a rally, and even holding a rally with guns, is not illegal. Let's talk about the
One more time, so that I know it's difficult to hear, but there are subtitles, so I want you to be able to, one more time.
Let's talk about the Nazis. I would like to know, although I'm not posing a question through the chair, I would like to know what they did that was illegal. I would like to know what they did in detail, if folks would like to share, that was wrong, that infringed on another person's right. Holding a rally, and even holding a rally with guns, is not illegal. Let's talk about the Nazis. I would like to know, although I'm not.
So who do you want dealing with immigration going forward? Do you want Democrats to say, oh, hey, Haiti has political instability. There's going to be an influx of asylum seekers. Oh, Cuba's people are starving. Starving people tend to not volunteer to die. There's probably going to be an influx of people coming in from Cuba. Oh, Mexico City's running out of water. They're dealing with an immigration influx that they're probably not going to be able to handle. Blue Wave Odyssey says, love your politics and the demeanor. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you, my friend. Who do you want going forward? People that look at these things really happening, or people that go, la, 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 it's not happening. We're closing the border. I'm going to put up a couple hundred yards of barbed wire and razor wire, and I'm going to tell everybody I did a great job, just like Donald Trump. I did an amazing job. The economy is terrible. You have no goods. Oh, you went to the grocery store and went shopping and there were goods? Oh, no, you didn't. That's your imagination. You were sleeping. You were having a dream. There are really no goods. The economy's terrible. But the really good economy is because of me. And Greg Abbott. They had terrorists coming across the border. They just invited them in to come play some bridge. Yeah, terrorist bridge clubs. They just invited them in. And then when, they arrested a bunch of them. So we know they arrested them, but I'm sure there was a lot more than what they arrested. And they're not doing nothing But the head of the FBI was talking about his plan to deal with this terrorist threat doing nothing. I mean, really, folks, I joke, I make fun, but really going forward, Alejandro Mayorkas just hopped on a plane, went to Mexico City and said, look, we got a problem. What are we going to do? These are the resources we've got. What resources do you have? Let's deal with this. And 2 months later, it's that peaceful, serene picture you saw in the videos I took down at the border. But you still have Greg Abbott with that low rent, ghetto looking container wall with razor wire strewn all over it, acting like he's doing something. I mean, which one do you want going forward? And they do this about everything. Ukraine funding, anything that happens. They don't do anything. They, like I said, 27 bills last year. It's all they managed to get done. 4 of them were just keeping the lights on. Just they weren't even creative bills. They were just, hey, do we want to default on our credit and have the lights go out? No. Okay, let's write a check. 4 of them. And 3 of them were renaming buildings. It's all they could muster for $174,000 a year plus incredible benefits. Incredible benefits. All they got to do is serve 3 terms and they got a retirement for life. And they can't do it. They can't do it. They can't show up. They can't do it. Who do you want, folks? Because let me tell you something. Oscar's voting. Oscar is voting, and he's voting Trump. Felipe's in Mexico. He may know what the hell's going on, but he ain't here. He's not here to fix our problems. He's trying to fix his own problems. Miguel's going to vote now, I guarantee you. Are you? What are you going to do? What are you going to do this election? Love you, folks. That's what I got for you today. And I'm sorry we can't do a roundtable. I am traveling and I'm under a time constraint. And I'm 30 minutes late already. I was only going to do an hour show today, and we went an hour and a half. But this is an important subject, and I really appreciate you folks. I appreciate all your support. And I appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. I really do. But that's what I've got for you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so informed. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Sunday. As old Texas Paul out. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.